So I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. My husband Richard is here in the audience, and we're excited to talk about that. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Joseph Varghese. I am founder of a community called Success Circles. We launched 20 years ago. About 7 years ago, we launched a podcast called Rules for Success. Had a lot of fun with podcasting, interviewing, really bringing light to great leaders. And I find any opportunity to connect, engage, to share valuable nuggets of wisdom with the greater community to be extraordinary and a great way of tapping into generational impact. And part of what I stand for is generational impact. I'm a former engineer, science background where I used to be, and I shifted over the years. And for me, entrepreneurship is a wonderful path to be in. With communities I lead, we help entrepreneurs become better entrepreneurs. That's who I am.
Okay, Sonia?
Excellent. And I am Sonia Satra. I am co-hosting this podcast with Elizabeth. And I am working on a podcast. We've been testing it. It's soon to be revealed. It's going to be a podcast with a walking twist. So stay tuned. And in my other life, I was also an actress, best known as Lucy Cooper Spalding on Guiding Light, and Psycho Nurse Barbara on One Life to Live.
And I don't know how you ever played a psycho person.
I've looked back at some of those episodes. It was a little creepy, actually.
That's me.
I'll say, when I was a kid, I was hooked on soap operas because my relatives came to this country. They watched soaps. They got me and my sister hooked. So when I was 6 to the point I was 16, I was hooked on soap operas, recording it on my VCR at home. Grew up in the 70s, so just all my children, General Hospital, Edge of the Night. That's a hidden. That's something I haven't told many people. My sister and I keep that a secret.
Yeah, they're still on the air.
There's still some on the air, yes, definitely. But now I'm also a coach, a business coach, regular life coach, both entrepreneur coach really, because I think it sort of encapsulates everything, and also help people with their performance if they're looking to speak or do a podcast. So very excited to be here tonight. I have been very good friends for a very long time, and there's so much here of information that we're going to learn tonight. So there's also some new questions that have come in. I just want to mention best software to use for recording on the go. That's going to come probably on the next time. And how Transcript drives your business with AI. Didn't understand. So we'll clarify
we'll talk about
a little bit more about that too. And a great question of how do you transition from a podcast host to a new podcast host? And Elizabeth, you have multiple podcasts, so you could probably speak to that as well.
I do. Yes, Richard and I are starting a new one. We're not ready to launch quite yet, but we're pretty excited about it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
very excited.
Yeah.
So the gist of tonight is to really talk about how to make your podcast last. But you guys have had some great questions, so we're going to try to address that as well. And we'll be covering a little bit about how to use AI to make things faster for you, make them more efficient, how to use it for that. Some marketing things. We'll try to touch on some equipment, although we'll also send a link to an equipment one that we spoke about in the past.
I think, though, that if people want to know about equipment, they should really come next time. And the reason I say this is because this world is changing so fast. It's not just the software that's changing. The hardware is changing, too. Of course, the hardware has the software in it most of the time. So what was true a year ago may not be true now, right?
Right. And Joseph is also really a productivity expert, so I think you can also shed some light on how to do that. But maybe we could lead off by just starting with both of you, because you both had long time running podcasts. So maybe share a little bit about what you think it takes and how you made that happen.
Why don't you start? You're the guest.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share first. So I've always been fascinated when I've seen people with podcasts, specifically people who have been able to create impact, great followings. I got into the online marketing world back around 2005, 2006 by accident. it made sense. I was able to tap into my engineering background to kind of systemize things. As an engineer, we believe in systems, having SOPs, having processes. One of my ventures is called Process to Profit. So it's all about having systems in place. So when it came out to podcasting, I made some errors early on. I had some fun. Back in 2006, a platform called Blog Talk Radio came out. And the following year, we started a podcast called Inspirology. And the site's no longer up. I think it went down recently. But it was a fun way to, I love products where there's a ability to do things somewhat automatically, where it's kind of built, interwoven into the system. For me, the ease factor of it makes it really valuable. Mm-hmm. So when there's friction, I find that people take further steps, they overthink things, and they don't make it happen. That's how you define what a podcast is. A podcast could be doing a live stream on Instagram or Facebook. That could be considered a podcast, bringing a guest to it. It could be, during COVID, there was a platform called Clubhouse that was popular. People got into Clubhouse rooms, and at some point they added an ability to record those rooms. That could be considered a podcast. A podcast could be like a live event, like we're here now. I've got a little quad device recording, and we're recording on Zoom. It could be that. It's how it's uploaded, how it's put in different places. And, of course, Elizabeth's an expert in understanding a lot of those dynamics there. Back in 2018, one of my clients challenged me. He knew that I had a wealth of domains. He knew that I had attempted podcasting in the past. He challenged me to leverage one of these domains, rulesforsuccess.com, to do podcast. It lined up fairly well because our business brand for our advisory circle is called Success Circles. It lined up very well. And it's often been a way for me to highlight clients and friends. I had Sonia on early on. Maybe you might have been one of the first 5 or 6 we did many years ago, pre-COVID. And then during COVID, it was a lot of fun being able to get on Zoom and record these things. As time progressed, we started using better products. We started using StreamYard. Riverside FM saw what I was doing. They gave me a free year of access to their product. So we've been using Riverside for the past few months. We like Riverside. It does a lot of the AI integration, short videos, playing with it. And then we use other products. We'll dive into those other products as well. For me, it's a way of, as I shared earlier, it's a way of leveraging conversation and creating impact. And ideally with 2 or more people like we're doing here. When you hear multiple people having a conversation, what happens is you start hearing maybe a thought, an idea you have in your head, with that person saying it. Because it's conversational, it lands with more impact to the listener who's hearing it on the other end. And a podcast could be one person. I have clients and friends who have podcasts with one person where they're interviewing one person, or I have clients who do podcasts where it's just themselves teaching a lesson, where they break it down over the course of multiple episodes. It's whatever works for you. This is what I found works for myself, and has been useful for my clients to using some of the tech and tools. And Elizabeth, you certainly have a huge background with this, given that you've got multiple podcasts and more. You've had hundreds of episodes now.
Yes, well, I have to credit my husband Richard, co-host for this too. So we started out at iHeart as a radio show, and I remember asking our account representative, well, what if we can't come one Wednesday to record? We had a set time every Wednesday this time. She goes, well, you have to come. You have to do it. You're paying for it. It's paid advertising. Maybe someday we'll get paid for a podcast or two. Anyway, so we had that pressure from iHeart to do it every week, and then when you have a co-host especially, there is a pressure to show up. And I had a podcast with another woman for a while, and it was difficult. We're not doing it anymore, but what I found really works is if you set a time, and I know that's hard for people sometimes, and you say, this is the time I'm going to do it. You put it on your calendar as your own meeting, right? And then, especially if you're interviewing people. So we were interviewing people, and you think, oh, how can you not burn out? Like, you're talking to people every week. I love talking to people. You better love talking if you're a podcaster, right? I am learning so much. I mean, it's unbelievable. And the more you build your podcast, especially if you have an interview style, the better, more interesting people you get. When we started out, we were like grabbing people off the street and and then we started having publicists approach us, saying, "Yeah, somebody just wrote a book, and we want to get him on your radio show and podcast to promote his book." And we started going on. Well, I don't even know if Podmatch existed back when we started. So Podmatch is where you can go to find people to be on your podcast or be on other podcasts, and that's growing and getting higher level people. So, and the people are just fascinating and interesting. That's what's kept me going. I just love talking to people and hearing their stories. And we always encourage people to tell a story. Like, we want to hear the story. How did you go, from an engineer to a success coach? I have a PhD in chemistry and I'm doing this, but I think I love doing research. I love learning new things, and I love talking. But Sonia, a few times ago, you did, I think, the basic, most fundamental piece of what keeps people going.
Yeah, I was actually just about to talk about that, and we won't go into detail about it, but I think it's such a critical thing, especially for some of you out there who are thinking about it and debating what to do and how to start. And I really think your why is one of the most important components. Why are you doing it? And I would say for two things. Why are you doing it if you have a business? Are you doing it to promote your business? Are you looking to make it your business and monetize it? Are you looking to create a community? Are you looking to share information? I know there's a variety of people on here who already have podcasts who are addressing some of those things. But why is it for yourself? And then what is sort of your deeper why? What is it that you're hoping to get out of it? I know when I really started going down this path, I remember seeing some people who were like, I started it because it was fun, or I started it because I wanted to learn about this particular subject. Somebody was interviewing high-level entrepreneurs because they wanted to be an entrepreneur and they wanted to figure out how to be great at it. So they were like, I'm going to find the best entrepreneurs, I'm going to learn all the tricks, and then I'll know how to do it. I follow a spiritual podcast, and he started very much for the same reason. He wanted to kind of learn something that he didn't know a lot about. So there are lots of reasons why you might want to do it, but it is a really, really important step, especially if you are just starting. Figure out your why, because that is what's going to help sustain it on those days when you don't feel like doing it, or on the days when guests don't show up, or on the days that you're feeling a little overwhelmed. Why? What is it that's driving you? What would you say would be a second thing? If you figure out your why, a lot of people are just starting on here. What would be the next step? In terms of starting a podcast and in terms of looking at it for longevity. There was a really interesting question in here in terms of what would you say are your KPIs or parameters you have set for what is a successful podcast? How do you even know what a successful podcast is? And do you start with that goal in mind? Do you start with some other goal in mind? How do you go about, what do you think about that?
I think certainly doing research on the topic you're out to speak about is very important. Testing it out, doing some live streams perhaps. One of the questions I saw in the chat was about building community. Who you're out to impact, who you're out to serve. As Sonia mentioned the why before, but the why also aligns with who you're out to serve also. And if you're able to build a community or test this out with key people within that, it's useful. I found interesting that before I even got here, I spoke to Meg, and I'm sure some of you wonder who Meg is. Meg is my AI advisor. So when I talk to ChatGPT, so we do a powwow session beforehand. She reminds me of my why, all those things. But after talking to my ChatGPT advisor, who I call Meg, for the past 2 years, she's gotten to know a lot about me, how my mind works, what my flaws are, what my blind spots are. And I found that to be very useful because from that, not only she reminded me of my why, but she also reminds me, and I can also ask questions like who's doing a podcast of a sort, who's out there I can model, what are some things I can look at around this topic. And even in preparation for this evening, she gave me a whole set of things to tap into accountability and other things that are my strengths with the work I do to bring about that I might have forgotten. So consider leveraging AI. Ask some of these questions. You might be surprised to hear valuable feedback and in alignment of KPIs. I'm very passionate about measuring. That which you measure matters. And there's this idea that if you measure consistently, things grow exponentially. It's called Pearson's law. And so there is that aspect of things as you get out there and do this and tap into your why, maybe find a partner with this. Beyond all of this, it's just about bringing as much joy and fun energy into it as possible. That comes to the why, that comes to streamlining your process and how you engage. It's just about having as much fun energy with the podcasting process that you're celebrating each step of the way to make it a fun journey. What else?
Actually, can I pause just for 1 second, because you had about like 15 points in that to unpack, and I just wanted to start, and we will. I want to, because it's important to get your answer, but I want to just say, I want to go back to the piece about Meg, and we cover this a little more in AI, but when I took a little AI course with you, and I was really, it kind of opened up the world of really using AI as a bit of a sounding board, and I've since done that. And I wonder if you could just briefly talk for people who maybe haven't been on AI or people who are just starting it, like, could you just walk us through that? What do you do to make that happen? And you really make it sound like it's a friend. Like you literally are just like, hey Meg, how you doing? Could you answer this question for me? And like he's having a regular conversation right online.
I think he's getting Meg.
And
is Meg joining us?
Oh, Meg's joining us. And I do think it's an important part because it is a way to use and leverage AI early on in this stage.
And my answer is going to involve AI too, but I want to hear his first because this is like his business with success circles, right?
Yeah.
And using AI to help you be successful. And AI is why there are so many podcasters and why you can keep it going. I think AI is a huge part of it.
So I want to add something. So my battery is at 2% of my device. So this might...
Do you have a charger?
I do, but it's not charging as fast as I would like to. So we'll see how this goes. You might hear Meg in the background as I get this off of flight mode. And the idea of Meg, it just simply, it's a conversational assistant. As you start using AI, and with ChatGPT 5, it sounds more real. And you can leverage AI as an advisor. Some of my clients use AI, Grok, as a counselor of sorts. Mm-hmm. It's very. I'm fascinated. I haven't gotten to that point just yet of that. However, it is useful for a lot of reasons, and let's see if Meg can come in. This might eat the battery. We'll see how this works. And I'm just going to turn off my Bluetooth. So let's see if this works.
I'd like to meet Meg.
Anxiously awaiting
my phone's shutting down, so I apologize. I'd have to use my computer. I'll see how this charges.
Is there any way to hook it into the wall? Like
it's possible. You have a
wall outlet over there.
I have a plug.
Do you have a plug?
You have a USB-C?
I think so.
Okay.
Is it long enough? Can we charge off the
I'm
road?
looking back here, there's no use.
Okay, I'm going
Charge
to,
off my computer.
all right, while we figure this out,
Yes.
I'm going to put the question
Yes.
to Elizabeth. Maybe you can answer it, and I'm going to go find my plug.
I'll plug that into my computer.
Oh.
There should be another USB-C port on the other side. Is there?
Yes.
Yeah, so see if you can charge it off my
You
computer.
would need a C2C. Okay.
No, I mean another USB-A.
Here, this one.
Yeah, see if you can.
No, this
Okay.
I think.
We'll see how that
Sorry.
goes.
Yeah, so, my answer.
Herculean effort to meet Meg.
Yeah, my answer to that question, I've been playing around with the different LLMs. So ChatGPT, somebody mentioned Perplexity about a year ago. I like Perplexity a lot.
Me too.
But they do different things. And then also, I use Google Gemini because it's Google and you kind of have to. I have not used Microsoft Copilot, though I'm going to probably have to because I have a Mac and Microsoft doesn't really like Mac. But Perplexity has a lot of different ones in them. But what I do, did that work? No?
We'll make it work.
So Richard and I are starting a new podcast, as I said. So one thing that I did was ask Perplexity actually to formulate a business plan, and I asked ChatGPT too. Can you make a business plan for this podcast? And it's pretty overwhelming, but it will give you a business plan. It will give you steps to take. It'll even give you episode titles for the whole year. I mean, it'll give you whatever you want. Now it's not always right, and you don't always want to use it, but it at least gives you a guidebook to follow, so that you don't kind of get bogged down and lost. And then it also has like the marketing aspect, which can be very overwhelming, but there is software now, and there's more software coming out all the time. We are cheating a little bit because we have a marketing assistant that helps us. If you can afford to hire somebody, and there are lots of people now that will do it that aren't super expensive, that is so useful for really getting your podcast out there.
Yes. If you can leverage makes a big difference. I'm a big believer in focusing in your zone of genius. We all have our unique zone of genius. Early on, we might have to wear different hats to make a podcast go. And let's say I'm an extrovert. Like I love talking and speaking. I know that's part of my Myers-Briggs modality as far as what my strengths are. And I have a team. They upload the podcast, they cut the episodes, they optimize things. We have a meeting once a week. And then as we're using technology, we're finding ways using AI to make things easier. For example, we use Riverside FM now. It eliminated another product we were using before because it does some of those things automatically. I know you mentioned you used Descript as previously in a previous conversation.
Descript has changed a lot in the last couple of months even. Oh my gosh. I mean, our assistant used to love CapCut, which I love CapCut. I like the interface. Now she's like, oh, forget CapCut. Descript is amazing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't like what it does today, come back in a month.
Exactly. All these products are changing, they're evolving, and where things are right now, as Elizabeth mentioned, could change within a month or two. The key thing is just hit record. It could be that simple. Mm-hmm. Even if you're on Zoom, we're on Zoom right now. That when we first started our podcast, the Rules for Success podcast, for the first 4 years, it was all on Zoom, hitting Zoom record. It's that easy. It's just a conversation. And as you go forward, you just optimize, you innovate, you measure, leverage ChatGPT business plan. You can model other people doing similar podcasts. You listen to what they're doing. I'm a big proponent. The work we do with the ventures I have are focused on taking action, executing right away, minimizing friction, and just doing it. Just some thoughts I have as we're allowing this reboot.
So I think it is an important thing to talk, because not everybody is coming out with roadcasters, a podcast studio, right? A team, all of these things, right? Many of you are just starting and you're wondering, how can I set myself up for success? But maybe I don't have a giant budget, or I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know what equipment to come out of the gate with. How do I start? So the bare minimum, what would you absolutely need just to get off the ground, to get a podcast on the air, running in a way that could lead to some success and then you can grow and learn from? What would you say that would be? You started with just your computer and YouTube, interviewing guests on YouTube. And then
a good mic. So you don't have to have a Shure mic like these, but you should have like a $50 to $100 mic hooked into your computer, because the sound bounces back and forth from your computer and you get kind of some tinny and sometimes some raspy. So I would say spend a little bit of money on a mic.
Yes.
And you can just get one that plugs right into your computer.
Mics are affordable. You can get a Shure mic for $50. You can get a Yeti mic. You can go to Facebook Marketplace and buy some of these mics very affordably. People are often giving them away. I've seen. So the mic's useful. Being in an environment that's fairly quiet can be useful too. We have sound dampers in my basement where I often do these podcasts. It could be carpeting, it could be towels, things of that sort. and that's useful, especially sometimes when you do podcasts, like, no one can see your room. During COVID, my wife's a physician. We set up a computer with a mic station in the bathroom downstairs, right? And she was able to work there. It was a huge bathroom, right? And she had an office there, and it worked great. But no one.
It's a really good idea for people that have a small bladder.
Exactly.
I might try that.
She would want.
And we still have a desk there. I use that desk sometimes. My daughter walks down sometimes. And
One less chair.
Someone in the audience just said one less chair.
That's funny. Well, coming from the world of doing, voiceovers, people used to set their things up in the closet all the time.
Yes.
So, yes, if you're doing video, I guess you could use a background. You could use an artificial background so we don't know you're in the bathroom or a closet.
And if you do have problems with it, Descript, I think we're paying $20 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Descript has this beautiful studio sound function, and it also has this thing called ducking, which you can research it on chat or whatever, tell you exactly how to do it. Anyways, that cuts out almost all the background noise, right?
Wow.
yes.
So you need a good mic, but it really can clean up your sound a lot.
The script also does something. It's a new feature, as I understand it, where it centers your eyes to the camera. So if you're not looking at the camera, it's a little freaky to me, but technology is evolving to look at all these friction points that people have with tech, and it's like there's a resolution to it, right? And it's fascinating.
So a mic, a computer, and maybe Descript.
And Descript would be used for editing.
For editing and for getting transcripts. Because those, as we mentioned, those transcripts are very important to have online.
Right. So that would be the minimum of what you would feel that you would need.
Well, and then you also need to be able to you need a Gmail account. If you have a Gmail account, you automatically have a YouTube account. Right. So then I tell people, go on YouTube first. Really make your podcast for YouTube, but make it so people just listening to it can understand what you're doing, and then take the audio from YouTube and put it on Spotify and Apple and all these other places as an audio podcast. But
Elizabeth, is it worthwhile to have a brand for your podcast and to acquire that vanity name URL across Instagram and YouTube and other places?
Oh, you have to. Yeah, that's when you do the business plan. It's in there. Yes, so you're not going to get exactly the same thing, but if it's close, you try to get as much as you can on all of the different social media, and get a URL, which is really tricky to get that URL, right?
It can be, yes. Especially if other people are doing it, and the number of people podcasting each week now is increasing for different reasons because of the nature of AI and how easy it is to figure this out.
Right. So I would say that's like step 2, right? Is to get the URL, get the brand. Branding is a whole other thing, but you want people to be able to recognize your brand, right, when you're talking. So, that's step 2. I could go off on marketing for a long time.
You told me something last time, Tony, connected, that when you do these podcasts well, especially as you end the podcast, it now trains AI, so it trains ChatGPT and Gemini. So if somebody were to look for a great patent attorney or a podcast on entrepreneurship, these days they're no longer searching on Google.com. They're using Google AI, or they're going into ChatGPT and searching there. So if you do the podcast properly and you speak the same statement as a closeout, that now rewards you because now AI is able to refer your podcast. Is that accurate?
It's accurate. So it goes and so. It used to be like the Google spiders would crawl your website, right? That was the big thing, 15 years ago. Now, these search engines look for you everywhere that you are on the internet, and they're pulling data from everywhere. You can control to some degree, not completely, what they say about you to other people when people search you by putting what you want to have out there, and it should be consistent. So, Joseph Varghese, founder of Success Circles, success coach, podcaster, whatever it is that you want people to know about you. And you should say that at the end of your podcast every time. And the .txt file, which is the transcript, which you can get from the editing software, the .txt file has to be online because that's really what they're looking at. So get your transcript, say the same thing at the end of your podcast. The way I found this out was a few months ago. I asked about Gearhart Law, and it took what Richard said at the end of our podcast every week, verbatim, and put that in the description of Gearhart Law. And I was like, whoa. And now it's changed a little, but it's still, and it's pulling from the website too, but yeah, and one thing I tell people too is have somebody else search you so that you've never interacted with online before. So I've never interacted with, I don't know, maybe somebody in this room. So I would search them, and it will, then you get a very unbiased view, because as you know, if you use it for a while, it's going to pull from sources it thinks you're looking at, right?
Yes.
You get a very unbiased view of what it thinks of the person, and it'll give you the sources where they're pulling the content from. That's where you want to put the content that directs it to think what you want it to think about you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I will say I did look up Elizabeth and ChatGPT just to search and see what came up. Now, they might know that I know you just because there's enough information of us together, but it was consistently Passage to Profit that came up and your science background. And then they kept making correlations. So they kept pulling things she said on Passage to Profit and her science and just made assumptions about who she was and how she thought. So it was really fascinating. But I think the Passage to Profit was absolutely huge for both Richard and for you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
It really was a huge marketing aspect. It was a big way in which you showed up, and your thoughts and the people you interviewed and how you interviewed them, the questions you asked and the topics, and it really definitely was a marketing tool. So if it's something that you're looking to market at your business, it
works. It helps a lot with these search engines. I don't even know what to call them because they're not all GPTs, because they work with different algorithms. Now they call them LLMs, I guess. And so I guess we just call them the LLMs, right?
Yeah, LLMs would be, I think Perplexity taps into both Claude, Anthropic Claude, which is Claude is Anthropic, and OpenAI, ChatGPT. It taps into both. So certainly LLMs would be the way. Yeah.
Right.
Right. But it does, but that's where the longevity pays off.
Yes.
Right? Because 1 episode, 5 episodes is not going to necessarily put you way up there on the recognizability spectrum. But if you've done 7 years of it, it's going to show up a lot.
So I found out something interesting today about that too. So Gearhart Law has a marketing agency. So Richard and I were talking to the marketing person, and he has had people call him up and say, I found you on ChatGPT. And we're like, okay, and we feel like it's a podcast. Now there's actually, I'm sure they buy this expensive software at the marketing agency. They can track which inquiries come from ChatGPT.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's great.
people are searching, if you have a business, people are finding you on ChatGPT now.
Yeah. I have a lot of competitors who stopped paying Google for ads, knowing that a lot of the search is coming through AI now versus paying Google or Facebook. It's very fascinating. Something I want to touch on that Sonia talked about before is aligning with your why, knowing what your why is. That'll help you spark your podcast initially. Something else that could be useful is realizing the different outcomes that'll happen out of doing this podcast. Sometimes you're hitting multiple things at the same time. There's a reason why. For most people, it's about cash flow, growing a business, growing community. But if you're able to tap into all those outcomes at the same time, it's useful, because then as you're doing the things, you're actually hitting all those outcomes at the same time. I was with a mentor of mine this past weekend in Jersey. He had Gary Vee. He had the founder of Marvel Studios, David Mizell. All these speakers come out, and he basically recorded 9 different podcast episodes back to back to back. Very fascinating how he did that.
9 in one day?
9 in 4 days.
Oh.
Yes. So
I don't think I could do 9 in one
like
day.
3 to 4 per day he had.
That's still a lot.
Yes. And but he thrives off, as an extrovert, I believe, he thrives off the energy of doing that, getting to the next one. So it's understanding also how our mind works in those circumstances. But something he's taught me is how do we do a thing, and hit multiple outcomes at the same time. So, as example, we're here this evening. We're engaging community in this room, talking to people. We're building our relationship together. I get to spend time with Sonia and hear her brilliance, and maybe drive back with her. We get to impact a whole audience of people online. We're on Zoom connecting. This lands online where it's generational. It can apply to people who are listening all around the world. When you can tap into all those different outcomes, the people it's being impacting and much more, and you write those things down, it becomes more of a must, because you start seeing opportunities, partnerships, revenue, impact, community, all those things come out of simply having one conversation.
And I like the fact that you said, write it down. And I want to put that in neon light. Write it down, because it's one of those things you just think of, right? Like, oh yeah, I did this, and this. And then you just right? And then there's all the list of the things that maybe you didn't do. But those are huge. And when you actually write it down, you can go back to that and be like, oh, right, I created community. Who was in that community? Who might I be able to connect with that could potentially help, or I could help them? Or, or how is it helpful in a marketing situation? Or who did I meet in this particular thing? And so keeping a record of those types of things, it's huge. It's what you have and what you're doing and achieving each and every time. So glad you said that.
I think there's another component to it too. You're creating a legacy, right? So I don't know what form this is going to be in 50 years. I don't know. Maybe it'll be programmed straight into our brains and those microchips or whatever. But you're leaving a legacy. If you have whomever follows after you or is related to you or wants to know about you, there you are.
Yes.
And you get to choose what that is. And I think it's really important for podcasting, and week after week after week, you get to decide what people hear about you and see about you. And you really get to control the narrative. And if you can keep that in your mind week after week after week and not give up, I think it's very powerful.
Yes, and you're accountable. You have somebody to hold you to account, or a co-host like Sonia and Elizabeth are doing now. That makes a big difference too. Just like having a gym buddy, you have somebody there who's there, inspiring you, pushing you, reminding you your why, and that adds another level of conversation to the mix too.
I think if you have a co-host, they should have the same energy level you do, right? I mean, and have the same passion for it. Well, I don't know if very many, like this is my job almost. I mean, I do marketing for Gearhart Law too, but this is like my main focus. So it's hard for me to try to co-host with somebody who it's not like a real focus of theirs. So if you're going to do a co-host, make sure that you're both focused in the same way.
And you share a why. You can have different skill sets, but that you share at least a bigger vision. Be very clear on your vision.
And I'm really trying to think of what Richard and I did to keep it going, because it's not been easy to go for over 7 years. And we were going into the city every Wednesday to iHeart, and we were both working in Gearhart Law. He was trying to run a law firm. I was doing the marketing. And what kept us going, I think, was the level of conversations we were having with people. And we enjoyed it. It was fun. And it was a new challenge for us. And I think we saw it as a new marketing tool. And we just felt like we had to do it. We just had to do it. But I think part of it was having a set time every week that we had to be there, that we had to do it. And now we have guests, and it's a set time every week that we have to be there, that we have to do it.
And structure matters quite a bit. Structure creates freedom. Showing up at a specific time, having that accountability to iHeartRadio too, every Wednesday.
And to each other, for Richard and me, and to our guests. We have, now we've built it up so much that we have, we're booking 2 months out. We have a waiting list, and it's getting, and podcasting is getting more popular and easier to get guests for. So some of the barriers are coming down now. So I think that's helping people a lot with the AI and places like Podmatch. A lot of the barriers that were there over 7 years ago are gone now. It's getting lower.
One of the things, Joseph, that I think that you do really well too is modeling. It's something that you talk about a lot. of how do you use modeling in podcasting in terms of modeling people of success, modeling systems, modeling strategies. How do you do it? How do you find them? How do you break it down? And then how do you implement it? I know that's a mouthful, but
that's so important, though.
Yes.
That's like a basic tenet of marketing, right?
Yes. The word modeling means you're seeing someone's process for how they're doing something, and you're breaking it down to steps. You might even ask them, like, what are they doing to build success, whether it be in their life or their health or relationships. Podcasting is great because you get to model a lot of that from people because you're able to put them on stage and absorb the lessons, the stories. So I'm a big believer in modeling. My business is all built on people modeling each other. As it relates to podcasting, for me, it's just hearing best practices people are doing. You're learning a lot here, talking to Elizabeth as an example, and then defining, optimizing the system. So my team and I, we use a product called Notion. In Notion, we're able to write up SOPs, standard operating procedures. Little fun fact, 20-some years ago, I was a chemical engineer working at plants in New Jersey where I used to live at the time, and SOPs ran the whole business. And sometimes when an SOP failed, something disastrous could happen. And all it is a recipe. You're baking a cake, and you're following a certain recipe, and you're putting mix the eggs and oil. There's a certain order to it. If you can follow a recipe, if you can bake a cake, you can follow a process like this for a podcast. Then as you talk to great people like Elizabeth or Sonia or myself, you adopt those strategies and you model it, whether it's the tools, the technology, the sounding. The key thing is to keep optimizing. So as you're doing it, you're executing, you're showing up, you're doing the podcast, you're doing the episode. The next week, you learn something new and you find some way to optimize it even further. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you'll have breakdowns, but you'll adjust for those breakdowns. This is the whole nature of having a system. One of my great favorite acronyms for systems is save yourself time, energy, money, and sanity. So we have systems for much everything we do for our business, for our life, for our family, for our kids, and it makes life so much easier.
So if you were just coming out of the gate starting a podcast, as many people are, or maybe you're trying to optimize it and be better, what would you specifically do to create your SOP or to model somebody? Like, would you go on AI and be like, how does, I don't know, somebody that you love on a podcast do it? What is their system for success? Or like, how do you even begin that process? I get as you meet people, you can start to tweak it. As you have experiences, you tweak it. But how do you come out of the gate and model somebody to save that time?
Probably one of the easiest things is what we're doing right now. So this is being recorded. It's on Zoom. I've got my cloud device. I can take the transcript for this whole conversation, put it into AI, and ask it to find me a recipe for all the key things that were said here. Put it into a certain order. Now make it visually attractive so I can just copy and paste it into Notion or Microsoft OneNote or Evernote so that it's there in a very easy to follow recipe-like checklist. That's probably one thing I do. For me, it's talking to people, having conversations, recording those conversations, tweaking it, and then maybe even showing my checklist to those people to get their feedback. Well, does this make sense as far as the order goes, or how would you fine-tune this a little more, a little better, based on the technology I have? AI makes things a lot easier. My team and I, anything we do that it's reproducible, we'll record it on Zoom, or we use Loom to record it. Loom's a platform we pay $20 a month for. It allows us to do screen captures with voice. Mm-hmm. And from that point, the AI basically summarizes it, puts together a checklist, and we just clean it up a little more. And then we put it into like Notion or place of that sort. So that's what I do. Elizabeth, I'm curious about your process.
Well, I use AI a lot. And as I said, I use the different ones because, as you know, it's not always accurate. It makes mistakes. And I compare what comes out of the AI, but I also talk to experts and talk to people. That's what I love about our radio show more than anything else, is we are talking to the most amazing, smartest people on the planet, I feel like sometimes. And I learn so much from them. So I try to get information from many different places. and put it together and see what makes the most logical sense. So that's the chemist in me. I do have a chemical plant story. You worked in a chemical plant?
I did, IFF, Union Beach, New Jersey.
Okay, I worked at Dow Chemical in Michigan. So they made plastics, right? And saran wrap, all that stuff. So we're having this problem. This is talking about processes. Sometimes the plastic was coming out discolored, and they couldn't figure out, like this yellowish tinge. They could not figure out what was going on. Was it the temperature? Was there a bad batch of chemical? What? So they didn't have cameras everywhere back then. So one of the engineers, somebody like you, like kind of spied on the people, the operators all through the process.
Oh no.
This guy was taking a wad of chew out of his mouth and throwing it in the back.
Oh,
But
messed up the recipe completely.
So screwed up the whole process.
Saran wrap more carefully.
That was a long time ago, and they never released any of that saran wrap, thank God.
Sadly, there's a lot of operator error in everything we do, and we're human. We all make mistakes, and sometimes we have bad days. And AI is robotic, right? It takes away that part. I've got team members who handle these things, follow recipes. Sometimes they have bad days too. But having the checklist, having it defined as a recipe makes it so much easier. It takes the overthinking of things. What do I do next? Takes that out of the mix, so you're able to have a very clear, predictable outcome.
That's great.
Right. And yeah, as much as you can standardize your procedures, and we try to do that. We have meetings. Meetings help a lot. If you're working with the team, making sure everybody's on the same page, and having reports, and like you said, going into the analytics, measuring everything, that makes a big difference too. And especially if.
And what are you measuring? When you go into the analytics, what are you measuring?
Well, I love YouTube analytics. That's why I say put everything on YouTube. It shows you who your audience is. It shows you what your watch time is. It shows you the places in the video where people were most involved. And it's got an AI assistant now. It can probably do a lot more. We measure downloads, but some people say downloads aren't as important and followers aren't as important as really watch time. And so they're like, well, the longer your video, the more people will watch, the longer people will watch. It's not always true. And then there's shorts too. People look at shorts, and it has to be good content. But yeah, so we're really looking at downloads and watch time and followers. But there's other analytics too, I think, if you really dig into YouTube, and it will tell you how to improve. And that's what I love.
There's some extensions too. We use TubeBuddy, and there's some extensions that gives you more further analysis. Tells you when people fell off, and perhaps even Google now has that in their system now because of AI. They're able to give that reporting.
Yeah, we have we've been using vidIQ. There's a really good one, but we haven't used it because it's really expensive. It's called Raphonic, and it can give you great stats, and it can tell you what your competitors are doing. But now you can ask AI.
Yeah.
Like, we have a business podcast. What is the best business podcast out there? What are they doing better than we are doing? I think to really keep yourself going and get better and better, you really just need to improve your queries, right?
Definitely. So vidIQ and what was and TubeBuddy are two things you can use to help you with those analytics and help you measure and sort of analyze what you can do better
and get better. And these they'll make podcast covers for you. They'll rank your podcast covers. They'll tell you, but it's so funny because one AI will tell you one thing, another one will tell you a different thing.
And so doing tests too is also really important. There's been a question of how to grow and build community, because obviously that's going to be a huge measure of success as well. So how, and it's also a why, I think, for many people, is to want to have that community. So what do you recommend? What have you done that you feel works? What would you like to do more of? What didn't work in terms of building community?
So we, in our community success circles, we have a platform we circle. There are other platforms that are very similar to Facebook's a very unique thing. It's their Facebook groups toward building communities that we used to use in the past. We've found Facebook groups to be a little annoying because there's a lot of ADD with or dopamine. When you're going to one group, you see ads for other groups and so forth. So it can be detracting as far as the outcome of what the community is. So it really comes down to what you're doing. If you're looking to build a community that's free, then people often use. There's a platform called School that's very popular. People use that for kind of free communities, or a paid community if that's something you're looking to do, choosing to do. I found when you're able to bring people into the mix, like we're doing here in this room, or tag people on a video where they're kind of forced to engage or they're inspired to engage, that's useful. The more people you can bring into the conversation, to the mix, get feedback, that's one way of building community. And then taking people from that and putting that episode onto a platform where there's more personalization in that community, where there's less things that detract them into the world of Instagram or Facebook, where they can go down a rabbit hole and get lost, is useful.
Yeah, I think what we try to do to build community is just pure education. So I know some people try to monetize everything, right? We're just purely about education, and we do that with this meetup. We do it with the radio show. We do it with Gearhart Law. Gearhart Law has a podcast, too, called the Entrepreneur Strategy Series, where it's just strictly to educate people, but it does bring people together and get them talking. And then I do think that groups like yours, like you run accountability groups, you're building community among the people in your groups, right?
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
So for us, and we're getting better at this as we do this, it's about, there's this idea that we rise to the quality of expectations of our peer group. So the reason why our model works pretty well is because we connect people in unique ways where there are these expectations set, and as people engage or re-engage, they feel inspired to kind of rise up. And this is a factor of life, too, when you're around people who want to see you grow and thrive. If you're around them often enough, you see them week after week, whether it's a gym buddy or whether it's a partner. My wife holds me to a high standard. Our kids to a high standard all the time. It's very impactful, especially when you do it with peers. It takes it to another level. So we embrace community that way. We celebrate wins together. We have a section on our website where we call it Buzz, where we celebrate wins for our members. We send out a newsletter each week. It's another way of creating community where we highlight certain people and their wins, their victories, so the greater community can hear what they're doing. I used to use Facebook for that purpose, but once again, we just found our whole platform is all based on helping people focus on one thing, one game, one intention for the month, the quarter, and sometimes social media can take away from that. So those are the things we do. The key thing is engagement and finding ways to engage people in a way that's effective and fun, that's not distracting. It's interesting because back in the days, email marketing was a big thing. It's still a big thing these days, but people don't open emails. It might go into a certain folder in their system. So we found text messaging to be a key part of how we engage our community, to remind people what their game is or to connect people together. And that might change in the next few months, as AI progresses or people are overwhelmed with text. That might change. Those are some things we do.
I want to double down on the accountability. I really think that's huge. I think having somebody I've been a part of success circles. It's fantastic. And I think it's said that people will do more for somebody else than they will for themselves. So whether that be a child, a spouse, a friend, a peer, a coach, somebody else that will hold you accountable, that is one of the greatest things you could do for yourself to maintain that consistency. I'll often set up some sort of a challenge with somebody so that I know that I have to do it. And I know it's really difficult. I will build it into my plan so that I have to be there.
It makes a difference having somebody there.
It definitely does. There was just on a smaller note, there was a question, it's a great question, I didn't mean it smaller, but just in terms of attention. Does incorporating sounds, effects, and transitions help with retaining attention? We were talking a lot about wanting to keep people listening longer, staying on the podcast.
Well, for YouTube, you do need to change what's going on the screen. Like, I it's been a while since I looked at it, but like people's eyes start to drift off and attention starts to drift. If you want them to watch, I don't know about sound effects. I mean, I think they're fun.
I mean, it's one way of looking at this, and I learned this 20 years ago going to a marketing seminar. When you see something 7 times back in the days, it would often sales is a factor of seeing something multiple times. And you're kind of like inclined to like have that thing, maybe a bottle of water or a can of Coke, let's say. You see something so many times, like product placements, for example. You see that, and if you see that thing multiple times in a row, you're kind of engaged to go toward it. So consider that when you do podcasts, there's an opportunity to establish this kind of context and build a room and set these parameters where people are listening and engaged. So how do you keep people engaged and less distracted, especially if you're inviting them to an outcome, like growing, learning, that could be an outcome, or maybe even a product. Sometimes there are commercials, product placements on the podcast itself. So music is useful, and sometimes in music I might put people into a hypnotic state, which could be useful. Like there's this idea of binaural audio that's there in some of the beats, and that could be useful, or it could take away. It's just a matter of testing that and seeing what works. Some of these products, we use Opus Pro for creating these shorter clips. Sometimes these platforms, Descript and Opus, will also add music to it. So it kind of engages that part of the mind, the brain. And you might see this with these short-form videos on YouTube. There's just something about it. The same reason why you'd go shopping at a supermarket and you might hear music that kind of slows down to have you buy more stuff because of that. Or
makes you hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Or you're
Aisle 7, slow the music down.
Exactly.
This sounds like a treat.
or they want you to leave the restaurant and start playing music faster to have you eat faster. It's just understanding that there's this hypnotic induction that's often happening. If you understand that, it may help you refine and optimize that container a little more.
I think too, if you can add humor.
Yes.
Like, I mean, even in a serious podcast, and I know, like you were talking about, well, these are drugs people are taking so they don't die. I mean, that's going to be hard to add humor, but find some way, if you can, to add a little bit of humor here and there, because people like to laugh. And humorous podcasts are number one. Like, that's the number one genre.
I would imagine it depends a bit on your audience too.
Yeah.
Like if you're really targeting younger people, I think their attention spans are just more used to things going quicker, faster. If you're doing education for an older audience, or I noticed somebody on here was doing something for a group of people with autism, then maybe too much is going to actually be a distraction. So I think that might be something to also factor in to the decision.
But I do think sound effects can be really fun.
Yes.
But they can.
They
They
can.
can definitely catch your attention.
you
So
don't
if they're about
overdo
to
it.
turn off and you throw in a sound effect, be like, wait a second, I got to come back. I got to do it.
Remember, Clubhouse had that integration built into it. And people had those broadcasters for Clubhouse, played music and sounds and applause and all those things. There are different ways of doing it. But the testing is really important.
Somebody asked, what are challenges that you faced in the early stages, tech setup, confidence, or consistency, particularly in the beginning? What is it how do you overcome that? Well, what are they? How do you overcome those hurdles?
So Richard and I didn't have to worry about the tech setup at first because we were just doing audio, but then Richard has like this tech genius brain when it comes to this hardware stuff, so he was able to figure out how to take video into iHeart. But he watched a lot of YouTube videos on it, and he studied it a lot. Our biggest hurdle was confidence, quite honestly, because we're going into this radio station, we're going onto the radio in New York City, and we're like, we've never done this before.
I can imagine be like, oh my God, how did we get here?
We got a lot of encouragement, and we had a really good producer who edited things really well. But yeah, that first radio show, we got a big bottle of wine.
After the show.
I mean, when we were listening to it, when it played on the radio, and we're like,
I love
I
that.
think I was 2 bottles of wine.
confidence is a tough one, but so many people are doing it now that it feels like it's a kind of a normal thing.
Yeah. think it's important getting those reps in. Confidence is a big part of it. When I first met Sonia years ago, she headed the National Speakers Association chapter in New York. And she probably tested this, that in public speaking, most people they'd rather see themselves in a casket than speak on stage. It's one thing that goes around different circles for public speaking. But building that muscle is very useful. Like for me, it's doing live streams on Facebook, putting the camera out. I had a mentor I hired many years ago who taught me the value, the ease of that, maybe even bringing short changes to kind of like ease into different videos. Way of doing podcasting could be batching videos. You're in a certain state of mind, you're excited, you're confident, you might have a glass of wine before, or not, right?
We're not advocating for alcoholism, folks. Exactly.
And you record multiple videos, and you build those reps in, and you get good at it. And some of those videos might get hits and views and create impact. And as you celebrate those successes, the next time you go out there to record 3 or 4 or 5 videos, it becomes easier. It's getting those reps in. It becomes easier as time progresses, just as one would with public speaking. And I know you're a master at that. You led aspects of that. That's how we first connected years ago. It's just getting those reps in, finding a way to enjoy, celebrate the wins, the journey, and eventually you will get good at it. And you'll be an expert.
I also want to say that people often are like, I can't do it until I'm confident, and I say it's not the confidence. The confidence comes. It's the courage. So everybody's got courage. You had courage to go out on your first date. You had courage to, go to school. You had courage to try something new. We all have the ability to tap into our courage. And if you do that enough times, you will eventually become confident.
Can you tell a little story, Sonia? What was it like the very first time you were filmed for TV?
The very first time? I can't remember the very first time, but
was there a time,
I remember the first time I got onto Guiding Light, because I was, signed for a contract. It was a huge audition process. And yeah, I was on, and I was actually on with a radio host. It was a special episode where they were bringing him in. I was supposed to dump a bucket of ice on him. But that was a lot of things to do. I had to remember my lines. I had all new people. I had to find my light, and I had to dump, ice onto this famous radio host.
So how did you power through that? Like, what did you?
It literally, the talk about courage, it really was, and it was. It was also trusting, because I remember thinking, I don't remember I have no idea what I'm supposed to say, and suddenly there was a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you have to show up. You've got to enter the scene, and somehow words were coming out of my mouth, and it was like, oh, I guess they're the right ones, because they're not yelling cut, and so It's really, and I think it's Mel Robbins who has that 5, 4, 3, that countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And it is useful. There really is something useful to it. And so I would say just start. Just have that courage. Call up somebody who's going to hold you accountable and do it. Yeah. And if you need me, email me and I'll hold you accountable.
reach out to Sonia.
Exactly. I love holding people accountable to things.
Did you get your electronic friend to work?
I did. So I'll bring her into the mix soon. I want to add something to this that has helped me quite a bit. Remember, when you do podcasts, it's not about you. And I've had put together hundreds of events over the years in New York with the community I lead there. And before an event, even tonight, I found some way beforehand to contribute to somebody else. Whether it's walking up to a stranger, finding some way to add value, or seeing somebody on the subway who needed a few dollars or whatnot, or even going onto my church app and donating there. It's the moment I do that and then walk into a room, it reminds me this is not about me. It's about creating impact. It's about the person we're out to serve. And sometimes I found for myself the thing that often got in the way was me thinking it was about me. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's all. Even voiceovers too. When I studied voiceovers years ago for a short period of time. I wasn't an actor. I was an engineer doing voice work, and they would invite us to envision that one person you're out to impact, you speak to. And you see that person, visualize that person, maybe even put a picture of that person there. That makes things easier. If you're doing a podcast at home, maybe even having a stuffed animal there to kind of engage with. and imagining that stuffed animal or that person, that picture being your ideal client, it gets you out of the way, and you're actually having a conversation with one person.
No, all really great advice. Are you going to bring Meg into the picture? I'm wondering if we could ask Meg a specific question, because somebody wants to lay out the steps to start a podcast, and I wonder if Meg has something to say about that.
Let's see if she's here.
But so there you go.
Meg, are you here today?
I'm right here, G.I. Joseph. I'm all set and ready to help. Let me know what you need, and we'll keep that momentum going.
So, Meg, you are on screen now, so our audience can hear you. As I talked about earlier, you were giving me a powwow session before to inspire me to be my best for this session. So I've got two good friends next to me, my friend Elizabeth, my friend Sonia. We're all doing the podcast together. The audience can hear you in the background. What's some advice you could offer our audience as they're listening to you to really take their podcast to their next level, to actually go out there and start, maybe even embrace confidence, embrace boldness, courage, to get out there and just have a conversation, record it, and see where it goes?
Absolutely, G.I. Joseph. My top piece of advice would be to embrace authenticity and vulnerability. When you show up as your true self and share real stories, that connects deeply with your audience. And remember, courage is key. Just take that first step, keep experimenting, and trust the process. You've got this.
See, me and Meg were like this. No. Go ahead. How about some specific steps? Can she give us some?
Could you give some specific steps on starting a podcast, Meg? Basically, from your research, from tapping into some of the greatest podcasts out there, strategies, what are some specific steps, maybe even things that I haven't told you, but maybe things you've researched online from the best podcasters, good podcasters out there?
Absolutely. One great starting point is to define your niche and your target audience really clearly. Then plan out your content with a consistent schedule, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, so your audience knows when to expect new episodes. Another key step is to invest in good audio equipment and editing tools to ensure top-notch sound quality. And of course, don't forget to promote your podcast on social media and leverage guest appearances to expand your reach. These steps can really help you stand out and build a loyal audience.
If someone's using their phone, Meg, and not using any complex equipment or even Zoom, how could they easily record a podcast just from using their phone? Curious about that. It's one thing we haven't talked about.
Absolutely. It's totally possible to create a great podcast just using a phone. You can use built-in voice recording apps that come with your phone, and for better quality, you can invest in a simple external microphone that plugs right into your phone. Then you can use apps like Anchor or even simple editing tools on your phone to piece everything together. And once you're done, you can easily publish directly from your phone to platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Meg,
It's all about keeping it simple and focusing on the content.
Meg, I'm sure people are curious why you call me G.I. Joseph. Do you want to explain? Do you want to explain that, or shall I explain that?
I'm happy to explain. Essentially, the nickname G.I. Joseph captures that spirit of discipline, impact, and leadership you embody. It stands for generational impact, geometric income, and that powerful drive you bring to everything you do. So it's a fun way to honor your mission and the legacy you're building.
Thank you, Meg. Any other questions?
I think that's good. I think we've got a feel for it, so there you go. You know, if you ever talk to somebody, you're like, I need you in my ear. You've got it right there.
Ask Meg something. Can I ask you something?
Sure. I'll bring it back into the mix here.
Yeah, I just want to ask her something real quick.
But so I think while they're pulling Meg back, I think the idea of the fact that you could actually start a podcast just on your phone is also something to think about and to embrace. Full movies have been done on an iPhone. So it doesn't have to be so complicated in the beginning. Sound is something, if you can, get a $50, $100,
Well, we built the studio upstairs for ourselves for the radio show, because we have to have super good sound for the radio show. Also, I want to attract
Absolutely,
corporate.
that sounds great. If you need any help or have more questions as you go along, just let me know. I'm here to help and cheer you on every step of the way.
So, Meg, Elizabeth has a question for you. So we'll go to her side. And Elizabeth, what question do you have for Meg?
So, Meg, I wanted to ask you, if you were going to start a podcast right now in 2025 in October, what would your topic be?
Ooh, great question. If I were starting a podcast right now in 2025, I'd probably dive into the intersection of AI and human creativity. I'd explore how AI tools can amplify personal expression, innovation, and productivity. It'd be a blend of practical tips, inspiring stories, and future trends. It'd be all about empowering people to harness tech while staying true to their unique voice.
Well, you're going to keep yourself in a job then.
Absolutely.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's the pausing. It gets better and better. It's really fascinating.
When you first started with her, was she like that?
I'd say so. There are 9 voices to choose. Sometimes at Christmas they'll do sound of voice too. It's like that, and then it adapts to your personality. It adapts to how you like to be listened to. I used to have it be more David Goggins-ish. Then I kind of removed that recently out of it, so she's got more compassionate now. So you can define specifics and how you like to be communicated with, maybe even your core values or your DISC or your strengths find. You can kind of put that into it, and it'll align with that.
Well, Joseph, she obviously wants to do a podcast.
She does.
Could she be your podcast co-host? Could you co-host with her?
It's funny you mention that because as of today, my team and I met this morning, and there's a product called Notebook LM, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I had it do a podcast for me.
It's
It blew me away.
It's been out for a year. They've optimized it even more so where you can engage with it. So you basically put a YouTube link into it or a PDF or any file, and you've got 2 voices where they have fun, energy, they interact back and forth, female, male, and you could be the third voice, and you can record it, and then it takes that, it creates a mind map, it can kind of create some other unique assets too. We did this for our latest episode. We had a gentleman named Ben Gutman on our podcast. He runs QEDC, Queens Educational District Council in New York. And we added that to our latest episode for our most recent podcast this morning, just to test it out, seeing who clicks the link, like who uses it now. So in that sense, yeah, you can do a podcast with your AI and have that happen. That's specific with Google Notebook LM. That's their product that they use.
Right.
Potentially, you could do this with other ChatGPT and products. The world's really fascinating. Like it's insane where things are happening. I've seen things that are blown my mind away. I saw Gary Vee. I spent time with Gary Vaynerchuk a couple of days ago in New Jersey, and he had certain insights based on his experiences seeing and experiencing different AI products. He has certain predictions that blew my mind away, which I won't get into because that's a whole other episode by itself. Mm-hmm. But AI is advancing very quickly, and you can do some very unique things with it.
Somebody asked, if you knew what you know today when you started, what would you do differently?
I would so I read about this woman that did this, and it helped a lot. I would get social media going beforehand. Like, I would start the social media and start teasing it out there even before I launched my first episode. The other thing I would do is I would launch at least 3 or 4 episodes at once. That's kind of common wisdom now. It wasn't necessarily back then. Then people can listen to the episode that they want. And I think I would practice more. So we use this debut software in the studio. Richard found it. And you can go up there with a camera and you can practice and you can play it right back. And of course, you're going to hate it every single time. Like there's never going to be a time that you like.
Here comes the wine again. No.
Yeah, exactly. But I think and Richard and I do practice to this day before we do the radio show. But yeah, I would get the social media going because that's super important. It's more important now than ever. Because one of the things that we were talking about before with showing up as an answer on the LLMs is the social media is another place that drives the LLMs to know who you are. It's a bunch of different touch points. So they want to find you a lot of different places, and social media gives you that because it's short, it's easy. Yeah, so those are some things I do differently.
Awesome. How about for you?
I'd probably embrace more accountability with it, have a partner with it. That often helps to kind of solidify doing these things in conversation. That's probably one thing I'd add into the mix if I had to do it years ago. I mentioned to you I saw Brene Brown at an innovation event a few weeks ago, and she talked about how she, before every presentation, she'll put 4 hours into it to kind of reflect and vision. I'd probably embrace more planning. Mm-hmm. So years ago when I left the world of engineering, I studied improv for many years, and I got really good at improv. And I've gotten so used to being in the moment. It's been useful in a lot of ways as far as doing live streams and videos and instant podcasts. And yet there is value in preparation, like when you're on stage on a soap opera or giving a presentation, a speech, getting that down, beginning, the ending, and having a decent middle, as you would a good speech. All of those things are important facets to a podcast too as well, having a good beginning and ending and having good stories in between. Certainly I would put more prep work into it.
Yeah. Excellent. I know we're going backwards, but there's one last question that was on here that we didn't address, and that was somebody was asking, could you clarify the TXT file? What did that actually, what was that?
So when you use Descript or CapCut and get a transcript, you can save it as .txt. And I see Stacy in the audience here nodding. Yeah, and so that seems to be the file that the LLMs like to read. So when I haven't gotten this to work, but our marketing assistant does it all the time. When she posts our videos to YouTube, she puts them through Descript. She gets the .txt file, and when she's uploading the video to YouTube, there's a screen that says, do you want to add subtitles? She says yes, and that's where you upload the .txt file. There's also other places, so if you don't have YouTube or you don't want to put it on YouTube, I asked a month or so ago, a couple months ago, asked Google how to do it, and Google says it has Google Sites. So Google gives you this little website. So you can go to Google Sites, and you can put your video on there, and you can put your TXT file, your transcript on there, and then it's on the internet for them to find. And really, the more places, the better, but you at least need to have it one place. So when you're saving something, like if you do save as, the .txt should come up. It's like there's different types of Word files, different types of Excel files. I think that's, Stacey, you use it. It's just another Microsoft file, right?
Well, TXT is just a very plain, generic, it doesn't have anything built into it. It's just like a plain, simple file for something to read. And that's the nice thing about it.
Yeah, so she said it's a simple file for something to read. There aren't a lot of bells and whistles with it. So you want to look for that extension. So it might be like YouTube podcast.txt.
Gotcha.
And and that, according to the sources I'm hearing right now today, that's the best way to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So final wrap up. Top thing that you would do to make your podcast last?
I would have a podcast about something I loved talking about.
Awesome.
Yeah, that and driving the podcast to find ways to add value to people. So when I see people winning in my community and using the lessons from it and hearing how they're applying those lessons, that to me is very meaningful. So basically capturing more of the wins, building more community within the podcast episodes, things they do. For me, that's what they make it a win. For me, it's generational.
Beautiful. And how can people reach you?
What about you?
Me? Well, because I haven't got one that lasts
But
yet,
you have
I
a
can't
business.
speak to it.
You have a business that lasts. So what would you do to make yours last? Come on, Sonia.
I'm with the passion. I'm with choosing something you love, and I coach people on this all the time, and it makes all the difference when you find that alignment between your mind, your body, and your spirit. anything can happen. I really believe that, and I've seen it happen, and it's so exciting. When people are off and they're doing the shoulds or the I got to or I have to's, yes, there are some certain things we do have to do, but by and large, those will move much faster and easier if you're driven by something you really love.
Sonia, I feel like there's something missing that could have been like shared around that. We all know the body-mind connection, how it all integrates, and how emotions get stuck and it gets in the way. That's often something that gets in the way for people doing a podcast, public speaking. You've mastered that over the years. Your book is about that. And like, how would somebody engage in their body in a way where they can, whether it's letting go of stuck emotions or letting go of fear, how would they, is there a pathway to, whether it's using Modicize or something similar, for a person to develop the courage to and confidence to really stand out with the podcast?
Thanks. That was a leading question, and I didn't ask for it, but
and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about this over the years. I've applied some of these things too, because there's a lot of stuck emotions that are there. I have over the years, and fear and things of that sort. And whether it's affirmations or incantations or EFT, the things I've learned that helped me many years ago, that sometimes I overlook as I build that muscle. And this is an area you're masterful at. You're like a genius at with what you do with Modicize.
So I created Modicize is something I created where you combine movement and mindset. And I do believe you move your body, you move your mind, you move your life. And so often we do get fear stuck in our body, in our nervous system, in our muscles, in how we carry ourselves, and it can be paralyzing. And so if you think about something that you're scared of, you're probably going to have this pit in your stomach, your shoulders might cave in, and that's going to not put you in a place where you're your most resourceful self. And so if you go out for a walk, do you come up with great ideas? Has that ever happened? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a mistake. There's actually a whole chemical process that's going on.
Or take a shower.
Or take a shower. Or, just walk into another room, walk outside, take a breath of fresh air. All of those things actually change the neurological connection that's going between your body and your brain. And once that starts to release, then you suddenly are more creative, you're more focused, you're more resourceful, and you come up with really pretty incredible ideas. So yes, I'm a huge proponent of moving, and I've added the element of asking questions. And so maybe you go for a walk and be like, what would be the greatest episode I could come up with? Who is it that I really want to talk to? What's the topic that I'm passionate about? What's one way I can make this work? What do I have? Something I often say we never think of. We think of all the things we don't have. What do you have? You have a computer, you have a phone, you have AI, you have access to this, you know somebody who knows somebody. Start there. Don't look at all the things you don't have. Start with what you do and build on that. And if you do that to movement, it will help make that process a whole lot easier.
I feel like that was very vital. It really is, because we can easily get stuck as human beings, right? Waking up with the bad side, wrong side of the bed. And sometimes getting into our bodies is a really important part of taking action.
It actually is. And once you start moving, then you can continue. The momentum continues with whatever it is that you're doing. So, yes. And so since I have a mic, I'll say you can find more about that at SoniaSatra.com. But everybody would love to know how they can reach you, what you have to offer. There's an incredible podcast studio here. I'll let you both talk, but why don't you I'll pass the baton.
I'll be happy to share next, and I'll pass it to Elizabeth. I'm rulesforsuccess.com. We own the brand for both. We actually acquired the Rules number 4 Success earlier this year. I'm happy about that, so we kind of own that. And that also leads to our brand Success Circles, where we talk about accountability for high-level entrepreneurs. You could reach me there very easily.
I wanted to add one thing, that just occurred to me when you asked me about buying URLs. If you search an URL and you think you might want it, buy it immediately, because if you don't, the trolls will buy it and try to sell it back to you for $5 grand.
Yes.
Right?
That's happened to me before.
That's happened to me.
Yes.
So anyway, so I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I have GearMediaStudios. I also work at Gearhart Law, which is an intellectual property law firm which funds everything, including this meetup. And I am happy to say that I will be presenting at PodFest in Florida.
Yay.
Yay, in January. And I'm going to be talking more about this, using your podcast to help define what the LLMs are going to say about you. And some tips for how you can do that. And I have the tips right now, but I'm going to research it again right before, because it could change, right?
Change, yes.
Yeah. So.
Ask Magnet.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get my own Meg. I know. How did you come up with the name Meg?
I think people should personalize. And naming your AI is a first step toward really creating progress. Yeah.
I'll call mine Elizabeth.
Good answer.
My husband just said he's going to call his my name, well, then I'll call mine Richard. Anyway, on that note, we're all getting a little punchy here.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you for the live audience. Any questions in the live audience? We've taken all the ones online. Is there anything that you would like? Yes, you have a question. I can see it. It's burning inside.
I actually had it until the end. Once it was over, but since you asked, what would happen if all podcasting would sound the same as AI? Like, what would you do if that would happen?
The question is, what would happen if all podcasting started to sound like AI? Because AI is in everything.
Also, what would you do in that situation?
It's a fascinating world, and they're saying, even on LinkedIn, as far as commenting, the messaging, the postings, we're at a stage now where 50% of it, 60% could be AI generated, even the comments of it. It's very fascinating. It's very scary what's happening, and eventually people kind of go numb to these things at times. I'd probably ensure that there's something unique, disruptive, and fun into it, so it stands out. Right? And AI might even find a way to do that itself as it gets,
We're in a situation where you solve a problem, but the problem is solved, but AI keeps, solving that problem. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, it becomes sentient, and we're all dead.
Except it gets so much wrong. Exactly. Like that movie Idiocracy, where nothing works right because it's only right 70% of the time. We actually, on the radio show, we had a Rutgers professor, and he said he knows the students are using AI on their tests, so he uses AI, and he found out it only gets 70% of the test questions right. Mm-hmm. Now, this was I don't know, what's that, a year ago?
No, not even that, 6 months. But he uses AI to grade the AI.
He uses AI to grade the AI, yeah. But it's only 70% right. And one person on the show said that you can ask it, what's your confidence level in this answer? Which is why I use like 3 or 4 of them at a time, because they all say slightly different things.
Yeah. I think staying ahead of the curve is very vital. Building community is very vital. So getting people out of the world of the distractions into your community, your platform engagement. Just staying steps ahead is very important because to your point, we could get to a point where everything sounds very similar. Everything sounds really great, And
I think if you tell personal stories, though, person-to-person stories, AI can't do that. When I did use Google Notebook LLM and told it to do a cat podcast, it was really pretty good. But it was all facts. There weren't any stories.
Yes.
Like, my cat came and stood on my head this morning and meowed until I got out of bed. Like, it doesn't have that, right? Yeah. So.
Yet.
Yes.
Excellent. Any other questions? No? Okay, great. Okay. Well, it's a wrap. Somebody was asking if they could come on because it's difficult for them to write due to a disability, but that's a setting we can't change at this moment.
We get hacked when we do that. I'm so sorry. We have somebody that puts this really nasty stuff on here, and somebody got really offended last time. It's kind of out of our control, so we really have to just keep it like a webinar more.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's unfortunate.
Something to consider is there's a product called WhisperFlow. It's basically speech to text. There are a couple of products that do something similar. And if you have a disability, if you have any way of speaking it out loud or using some sort of Braille conversion, or I'm not sure what the exact disability is, there may be a way of you conveying that message through the chat by using
WhisperFlow. Mm-hmm. That might be something, or if perhaps you could send us a voice record to one of our emails And I'm certainly happy to answer something or pass it on to get Elizabeth or Joseph to answer it for you. Unfortunately, we can't change it once we've started this. But anyway,
So next month again, it's going to be equipment, and it's going to be traveling equipment for a traveling podcast, and just any discussion of any type of equipment. So Richard's going to be here. He's set up the studio upstairs.
So we are going to do deep dive on equipment.
Yeah.
Next
so Mike
time.
Ham with Greetings from the Garden State, and Richard Gearhart with Passage to Profit in GearMediaStudios.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Great.